Today was the first time I opened my laptop since last week's episode, and I opened it up and there was chicken grease just all over my keyboard and screen. If you don't know what we're talking about, go back and watch last week's episode. It was a doozy, our Thanksgiving special. It was spectacular. I'm Lucas Durazio here on the North Shore Station. I'm with Dom Farrow to my right. Last time we were in here, Dom, I believe you were behind the glass.
Yeah, I was.
Yeah.
We did McGloin.
Yeah, that's right.
Was nowhere to be found. We got all the boys back in the studio.
Yeah, it's good to have you back out here. And again, behind the glass, our man on the sticks, Cam.
You got a little sneak peek of a DSTV video back there. Go back to that, Cam.
You said what?
Go back to your camera. You got a little sneak peek of the next DST video right above your head.
Oh, yeah, on the
whiteboard. Might need to blur that one out.
Whoa.
And shout out our new video
information.
editor. Shout out our new video editor, Nick Fernball. He's going to be cooking up the videos, making them a little better, just doing his thing. So shout out Nick. And this is episode 13, the Week 12 recap, the Thanksgiving Day games. We're going to be previewing a little bit of the Week 13, giving you the locks of the week. It's a little competitive still. Lucas is falling off a bit. We'll get to that later, though. Week 12 recap, I think I want to start with the biggest loser this week because my biggest winner kind of correlates that, and I think it just makes more sense to start with the biggest loser, and that is, you probably figured it out by now, the Pittsburgh Steelers, who got beat, I believe 42-10 was the final score. I stopped watching after the first half. It was the most embarrassing loss I've ever seen as a Steelers, a regular season loss. Of course, last season, losing in Cleveland in the playoffs was absolutely horrible. But this one was just uninspiring, disgusting. There just doesn't seem like there's any motivation on this Pittsburgh Steelers team. I think it's officially the rebuilding time. I wasn't so sure about it at the beginning of the season, especially after week 1, we go into Buffalo, win at home. I thought we were winning the Super Bowl, honestly. And then just getting outscored by Cincinnati in these 2 games like 100-20, it seems like. The Pittsburgh Steelers are not a good team. The defense looked horrible. They couldn't stop anything. Devin Bush is just, I'm almost ready to call him a bust. I know he's still coming back from the ACL injury, but he just doesn't have it. He's afraid. He doesn't move at the ball. He just doesn't have that instinct that you need to have as a middle linebacker. So, but it doesn't fall on just Devin Bush. Ben Roethlisberger didn't look good at all. And the defense has to play so conservatively because they know that the offense can't put any points on board. They can't be aggressive, and that's how they just get destroyed by this Bengals team. Just no motivation at all. I think we keep T.J. Watt, Minkah Fitzpatrick, Deontay Johnson, Najee, Pat Freiermuth, re-sign Juju. Keep those young guys and build around them. Claypool, I'm not too high on Claypool anymore.
Really?
He doesn't play.
Did you hear what he said today?
Yeah, I don't really care about that.
What did he say?
He said, Camden, what did they? I don't know what they asked him exactly, but he was basically like, we need to make practices more fun. We need to play music there. I've been asking for music since I got out of college. We just need to have more fun at practice.
Yeah, I mean, let's prioritize some other things. This is a business, all right? I understand football's supposed to be fun, but that's pretty bad. That's a pretty bad statement.
This isn't college ball anymore. Yeah. This is the NFL. And you got guys like Minkah Fitzpatrick who's saying, we need to work harder in practice. We need to go through these drills a little quicker. We need to be more at full speed when we're practicing. You had Joe Schobert about 2 weeks ago saying, these practices aren't as intense as I'm used to. We need to ramp up the intensity. If those guys are saying that, there's a serious culture problem within the Pittsburgh Steelers, and we need a complete revamp. This season is pretty much done for, in my opinion. This week we face the Ravens, where if we win this game, I'm not going to lie, my hopes will be back up, but I can guarantee if the Steelers make the playoffs, they won't win a game. And making a playoffs is a stretch at this point. And that kind of leads me to, I'll just do my biggest winner quick and let you guys go on with this because my biggest winner is the Bengals, who absolutely whooped the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh Steelers have owned the Bengals as a franchise for the last decade, and they just dogged them. You had Mike Hilton getting the pick 6. You had Joe Mixon run for like 140 yards. Joe Burrow looking like he's freaking Patrick Mahomes out there. And they're my biggest winner because looking at the rest of the AFC North, they have to feel confident moving forward with the rest of the season. Sitting one game back with the Ravens, who, in my opinion, had a couple fluke wins. They didn't deserve to get a lot of those wins. One game back on the Ravens, I think the Bengals could bring them a good fight. Seeing what the Browns have been doing lately, they have no passing attack. If you can just stop Nick Chubb, you're probably going to beat this team. So the Bengals have to be happy with what they're seeing around the AFC North, and for that reason alone, they're my biggest winner of the week. I'm pretty bummed out about the NFL this week. Pittsburgh Steelers, they took a lot out of me this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, one small thing that I picked up when you mentioned the practices is you said Joe Schobert, you brought that thing up you said a couple weeks ago, said the practices haven't been intense as I'm used to. Joe Schobert was drafted by the 2016 Cleveland Browns and then played on the 2017 Cleveland Browns. He went 1-31 over those 2 years.
Yeah.
And he's saying that the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are a legitimate AFC North contender, I mean, this is a very close division. I mean, when you look at it, no matter how bad they played this week, they still have a shot to be a division winner. Yet their practices aren't as intense as a 1-15 team and an 0-16 team. I mean, that's like you said. There's a culture issue there. I think there's definitely something to look at there with the Steelers. So yeah, that's definitely concerning for Pittsburgh fans.
I was one of those guys who, for the longest time, was like, you can't compare yourself to these old Pittsburgh Steelers, the guys who were just gritty and they just represent the city of Pittsburgh in such a great way. It's just, you can't have these goofballs on this team. Like, if you don't care about winning, get the heck out. I know Juju cares about winning, and that's all. He's still having fun out there. He has fun outside of the game, but he does care about winning. For the rest of these guys, I can't say the same. I can't look at Devin Bush playing the game of football and say, that guy wants to win really bad. That guy's going to do anything he can to win. 41-10 to the Bengals is unexcusable, disgusting.
So you talk about, when you say culture, and you're talking about, like, keep these players together and then look to, move other guys, when you look at culture, that goes players, but then coaching as well. So how are you feeling with Tomlin right now, the coaching staff in general, I guess? Obviously that's a problem as well. Is that something you need to look to move away from, or are you, he's never had a losing season with your organization. So, is it justified to go away from Mike Tomlin after the season?
You can't do it immediately after the season. There's just no way. A guy who's never had a losing season, especially on a team that's had less head coaches than there's been popes in the last 60 years. You just don't get rid of a guy like that. I think it starts with the coordinators. I think it starts with Keith Butler on the defense, because he's obviously proven that with all this talent, he still can't get the results on the field that are expected of this team. And another thing that really disgusts me is, why would, let's say, Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson, why would they come to Pittsburgh after watching this game and seeing this defense? Why would they do that? It's just, it really frustrates me a lot. It starts with Mike Tomlin, of course, has a role in this culture that has happened over the last few years, but you don't do that to Tomlin just yet. You move around these coordinators. Definitely new defense coordinator, maybe new offensive coordinator. I'm not sure about that. But Tomlin, not just yet. I've been a Tomlin hater at times. I've said fired Tomlin may have come out my mouth at one point or another, but it just doesn't make sense to do so at this point in time. But that's a good question for sure.
Yeah, I mean, when's the last time the Steelers won the Super Bowl?
2009.
2009. I mean, obviously they've been very close. They've been a contender my whole life. They've been a contender every single year. When's the last time they didn't make the playoffs? When's the last time they haven't had a winning season? I mean, there's all those stats that are in Mike Tomlin's favor, but at the end of the day, I mean, it comes down to Lombardi trophies.
Yep.
People talk about who's the best coach because who has the most Lombardi trophies. Yeah. People talk about who's the best quarterback, who's the best player because of how many rings they have. And, I think one thing that a lot of people were shocked in Philadelphia was how quick they moved on from Doug Peterson. They talked about, how long is that grace period after a Super Bowl? And theirs wasn't very long because their franchise was not in a good spot. Mm-hmm. And I think the Steelers, clearly they're not in as bad of a spot as Philadelphia was. But, I mean, you really have to look at it. I mean, it's been 12 years since you've won a Super Bowl. the team, I mean, you guys are always very good. You have a lot of talent, but that doesn't have to do with Mike Tomlin. I mean, the front office is the one bringing in very talented guys. We've had one quarterback who's a first ballot Hall of Fame quarterback for his entire career. I mean, that has something to do with him as well.
And that's another thing. Like, I think we're very lucky that this is all happening while we have Ben, like, on his way out. Like, I couldn't imagine if we just got a new guy, we thought he was a franchise quarterback, and all this, like, culture stuff was going on, this practice stuff was going on. I think this is a good time to really self-evaluate the team. Mike Tomlin, get a little more serious. Let's get these guys grinding a little harder. But yeah, that's going to be interesting. And Mike Tomlin, like Camden was saying, has never had a losing season as a head coach. It's not looking good for this season. The rest of the schedule is tough. We got the Ravens this weekend, Vikings the next, then the Titans, the Chiefs, the Browns, and then the Ravens again. So if Mike Tomlin somehow finds a way to not have a losing season, I'll be shocked. But I just don't see it possible. I'm not very optimistic for the rest of the season. I'm kind of looking forward to the draft at this point, see what we can do then. And there are a lot of positions that they can target in the first round. I don't know how deep the quarterback class is.
It's very shallow.
That's what I think too. I mean, there's a lot of quarterbacks to pick out of, but how many of them are like generational talents? I don't know. I'm not sold on Kenny Pickett as the next Steelers quarterback, so I'm not sure. We'll move on from the Steelers for right now. Maybe they'll come up later in the episode. Lucas, who's your biggest winner of Week 12?
Well, my biggest winner is out of San Francisco. The Niners, my biggest winner. And it's not just because of this week's win. I think it is a huge win for them, beating the Vikings 26-34 in a really good game. But I think they're getting hot at the right time. That NFC is very close. I think it's closer than the AFC is in that playoff race. I think it's a lot easier to get a wild card spot out of the NFC right now. And I think the Niners are getting hot at the perfect time. I think Jimmy G has his team in a good position. And I think that it's time for Kyle Shanahan to face the facts that Deebo Samuel is the best player on the field. And they're starting to use him the way that the Falcons are starting to use Cordell Patterson.
Yeah.
They're starting to use him like a lot of other teams use, like Christian McCaffrey on the Panthers. You can name a lot of guys. Curtis Samuel when he was on the Panthers as well.
There's 3 guys who are hurt right now.
Yeah.
McCaffrey's out for the season. Debo has just announced he's going to be out for at least 1 or 2 weeks. So, but yeah, Debo is definitely the most talented player on this team.
And they're finding ways to get him the ball any way they can, whether it's out wide because they're throwing him a lot of yards. He's getting a lot of yards receiving. Sometimes he's just in the backfield. They're handing it off. I mean, obviously Raheem Mostert's hurt this year. They have another running back that's hurt. If I'm wrong,
Elijah Mitchell just came back.
Came back. Trey Sermon, I believe, is hurt a little bit. They're rookie out of Ohio State. So, if you want to get that ground game running, who's the best guy to do it? Whoever's your best athlete, and give it to Deebo Samuel. He's a thick guy too. I like Deebo Samuel because he's not a Justin Jefferson receiver. Not that I have anything wrong with Justin Jefferson. He's not a skinny guy. He's a guy that's going to take hits. He's got a lot of rack capabilities.
Deebo for no reason.
Exactly. I mean, he's going to steal your bike from you. He's going to steal your chain. That's another reason I love him. But yeah, I mean, they're getting hot right at the perfect time, and their defense is finally healthy. The whole team's starting to get more and more healthy. Obviously, still without Raheem Mostert, like I said, but other than that, I think Brandon Ayuk is really settling in to this offense. And what's also good about the 49ers, they're playing good right now because you haven't heard Trey Lance's name in a while. Usually you start hearing about that rookie backup when you're not doing well. If you haven't heard his name in a while, that means Jimmy G is getting it done. That means you're winning games, and that's what you want. And I like Trey Lance. I think he is the future of that franchise. But right now, this year, you don't want to hear his name. You want Jimmy G to run the show.
Apparently, there are reports out there that Trey Lance is the guy next year. They're moving on from Garoppolo, but is there any way that Garoppolo can have like a miracle season and may win the Super Bowl? Is there a way they could bring him back then?
I mean, honestly, the way this team's built, I could see him winning the Super Bowl and then still moving on. Honestly. I mean, look at teams like who else has done that? Not very many teams. The Ravens in the early 2000s, they had Trent Dilfer as their quarterback, and the next year he was out because his contract was up. They knew they didn't win it because of him. They won it because they had an insane defense. This 49ers team has a really good defense. They have a lot of weapons. They're not winning games because of Jimmy Garoppolo who's being a game manager, and that's all he needs to do. That's all they need right now because they have a lot of good talent. They have a really good defense. So I could very much so see him even winning the Super Bowl. I mean, he could even be Super Bowl MVP, and they could still move on from him. I wouldn't be surprised.
No, I agree.
Because I also think Trey Lance is that talented. I think he's got a lot of raw talent. I think he's going to mold them, Kyle Shanahan's going to mold him, and he can be a really good quarterback in this league for a long time. I don't know, Camden, what do you think about the 49ers? Your Washington is in the NFC with them. Obviously not the same division, but, you get to hear about them a little bit more in the race and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's all about, how high you are on Trey Lance, I guess, determines how well Jimmy G has to play. Like, if you're super high on Trey Lance, then the ceiling Jimmy Garoppolo has to play up to is going to be sky high because of how high you are on Trey Lance. But if you're kind of losing yourself on Trey Lance, then, Jimmy G doesn't have to impress you as much. But no, I think it's a simple scenario. We see it all the time. Quarterbacks fighting for jobs in the middle of the season. It happens. But I think it's vibing well. I think it's not anything that's like conflicting or anything. And I think the team has kind of figured it out. They kind of are settling in with Jimmy G, letting everybody get comfortable, which I think was the difficulty at the beginning of the year. Every time we see teams try to mix in QBs, try to put Trey Lance in for this drive. College football is much different, but I see it with Notre Dame every week. They try to switch quarterbacks, and then once a new quarterback comes in, it just kind of throws everything off. So I think now that once you settle into Jimmy G, you get to definitely, get the chemistry going. You get to, keep guys on the field, because that's been a problem for them. Like you mentioned, they have numerous injuries. But just being able to get the chemistry down, this is the point of the season where, we see pretenders and we see contenders, and you're seeing them kind of turn into more of a contender rather than a team that, looked good at the beginning of the year, but then the wheels kind of fall off as they get moving too fast, something happens or whatever. So, no, I like the 49ers. I think that was a big statement win this weekend, being able to take down Minnesota, who is also a team that's, they're right there in the middle of the pack of somebody, right there in a division where, they're going to need to win games to be able to find a spot in the playoffs. So good win for the 49ers for sure.
Who's your biggest winner, Cameron?
My biggest winner? My
He
biggest
does that
winner
every
is-
week.
Yeah, every single week he sounds surprised.
Wait, my biggest winner?
He sounds surprised that he's being asked. Me? I'm honored. My biggest winner. Go on, Cam.
Just hit me. That does that every week.
I've noticed that.
I'm going to the AFC. I'm going with the Patriots. I mean, if anybody expected the Patriots to be 8-4 coming into Week 13, you didn't expect them to be 8-4 coming into Week 13.
Anyone who says they did is lying.
You must have seen something I didn't, because I don't think anybody expected Mac Jones to adapt to the NFL as quickly as he did. We usually, we always see quarterbacks, it takes them a little bit. I think, in my opinion, he's the only rookie quarterback so far that's kind of had quote-unquote success this year. I mean, Trevor Lawrence has struggled. Zach Wilson has struggled with a capital, every letter in the word struggled. Trey Lance has had his thing, but Mac Jones has really, he's got comfortable, and, you have Bill Belichick to thank for that. It's like I said last week, whoever let Mac Jones fall to the Patriots that was just, you were asking for this. Mm-hmm. That's exactly the type of quarterback that he wants. 6 wins in a row for this team. They started 2-4, now they're 8-4. And then you take down an opponent like the Titans, who they've had their struggles. They just had Derrick Henry go down, but to put 36 on them, and in pretty reasonable fashion is it's not a win to. It's definitely a win to build on. And I think it's the same thing I said with the 49ers. You're just seeing chemistry build as weeks go on. You're seeing, them kind of figure out their running back situation with some of their new guys that have come in. You're seeing wide receivers get more comfortable as they get more targets. Jacoby Myers has been increasing his productivity each week. And then you're seeing a defense that's just a bunch of guys who are, going out there and competing. And you're holding a team like the Titans to 13 points. Now, Ryan Tannehill is just closing his eyes and clicking a button on his controller. He's just kind of throwing it wherever he wants to. He's been terrible the past 2 weeks. But nonetheless, that's no slack on the Patriots. They've been balling. They're 5-0 on the road, which is insane. And then, like I said, six wins in a row. Only up for the Patriots from here. I think you're definitely seeing, contender out of them, which I believe, like I said earlier, nobody expected coming into the beginning of this year, especially with, they didn't even, at the beginning of this year, we didn't even know if, his name's going to come up in My Biggest Loser, but they didn't even know if Cam Newton was going to be running the show. But now you got Mac Jones running it, and everything is going very smooth.
And Cam Newton stinks. Cam Newton's been stinking it up.
Yeah. You mentioned Mac Jones, best rookie quarterback. The way they started this season, it seemed like, all right, we're going to rely on our defense, we're going to rely on our run game, and kind of the same thing with Jimmy G we just talked about. Mac Jones is just kind of going to be a game manager. Let him settle in. It's his rookie year. We're not going to put too much on him. You look at this game, he threw the ball 32 times, 23 completions, 310 yards, 2 touchdowns, took care of the ball, no interceptions. That's exactly what you want to see from a rookie quarterback, and you're seeing that progression in real time every single week.
I said it 2 weeks ago. I think Mac Jones is the best rookie quarterback of all time. Maybe behind Russell Wilson and Ben Roethlisberger, but barely.
How many touchdowns does Mac Jones have on this season? I'm interested to see.
Good question.
Because you know who has the touchdown record as a rookie?
Still.
Yeah, Baker Mayfield, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's rough because he's not going to be a Brown too much longer. I think that leads you into your biggest loser. Is that right?
Yeah, probably. Unfortunately, Mac Jones has 16 touchdowns right now, by the way, and with however many games left. What is this, week 12?
We're going into 13. Yeah,
week 13. So he's got 6 games left?
Yeah, I don't know if
5 games
left.
Maybe
just that extra week that Baker
we'll see.
Get.
Yeah, and Baker didn't play until week 3 either.
True.
So, but whatever. But yeah, speaking of Baker, it leads me right into my biggest loser, and it's the Browns. And I had to put him as my biggest loser because I'm going to get all my frustration out because I don't have to talk about them next week. They have a bye, so thank God I don't have to bring them up. But Baker right now, he's hurt. He's got every injury in the book. You've seen the meme, oh, wake up, babe, new whatever post. Someone said, oh, wake up, babe, new Baker Mayfield injury because, now his groin's hurt. He's got a hip injury now. Oh, his knee this week. His ankle's messed up. His shoulder's been broken. I don't know what's going on. I think I've been saying it for a month now. I think he needs to sit out a game or two, let Case Keenum get in there, let our run game work. But unfortunately, we couldn't even get the run game going this game. Like I said before the show, granted, the Ravens have the second best run game coming into this week, and they might have the best now because they shut us down completely.
Yeah.
Baker looked kind of sharp at the beginning of the game a little bit. One drop from Donovan Peoples-Jones, and then it just went off the rails. There's one tweet I wanted to share because, people always say stats don't lie. And this stat really made me angry because, they were talking about Baker getting benched this week. And someone said, well, forgive me if I'm wrong, but Lamar Jackson threw 165 yards and 4 picks, and he's getting praised because he won the game. Then he said Baker Mayfield throws for 247 yards and a touchdown with 0 picks, and there's talking about benching him. This person didn't watch the game. Hayden Grove clearly didn't watch the game because it's all his fault. We lost. We scored 3 points off of 4 picks. If you told me before the game we were going to have Lamar Jackson throw 4 interceptions, we were going to hold him to 16 points, I would be completely happy. I would say, oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. That's an amazing stat. We had 4 picks on a past MVP who's been playing very well this season, only held him to 165 yards passing, and Baker Mayfield throws 247 and a touchdown. He looked terrible. I don't know how he threw 247 because he looked god-awful. And the Browns' offense looked god-awful. The defense looks really good, like I said. But,
if you can't score off 4 picks.
3 points off 4 interceptions, that's,
unexcusable.
Yeah, it's ridiculously bad.
Listen, we're in the same boat here. We're going through it right now.
We really are.
We went into this year thinking, well, one of our teams has to be good. One of our teams has to make the playoffs. And now we're thinking we might not even make the playoffs. We're thinking about moving on you're thinking about moving on from your quarterback. I'm thinking about complete rebuild. Camden's still down bad back there with his Washington football team. No shock, really, with that.
As I watch Russell Wilson throw an absolute dart to Gerald Everett in the back of the end zone after they walked down the field. I'll get on that next week. We'll let that game finish.
I think we can just type in Camden's biggest loser right now, and the game's like 5 minutes in.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, though, Camden, we can go to your biggest loser. You mentioned Superman a little bit earlier. So, what do you have to say about Super Cam?
Superman, yeah, that's in the past. No, my biggest loser is the Carolina Panthers. I talked about them as my biggest winner last week. They brought, they needed something. They needed a spark, and that spark was bringing in their former MVP, Cam Newton. And he started out, he scored 2 touchdowns. Then the next week he scored again, I believe, right at the beginning of the game, and was like, "I'm back," and he sounded like Dora when he was yelling it. But
yeah, it didn't sound good. I didn't like that.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of that.
But then they come out this week. He starts, and they lose 33-10 to the disappointing Miami Dolphins this season. He was 5 of 21 for 92 yards with 2 picks. I mean, that's just, it's kind of like, you bring in that spark plug, and it worked for 2 weeks, but the spark kind of lost its flame and then kind of came back down to reality. And now I feel like your morale's kind of lower than it was even before you brought Cam in, because now you're like, well, now we have Cam Newton. He's throwing 21 times and completing 5 of them. 2 of them being interceptions, and nothing really changed, and it was just kind of 3 empty weeks of nothing, and now you're 5-7. Your morale's down because you just allowed 33 to the Miami Dolphins. You just lost your running back again for the rest of the year. You can't spell Christian without IR. Your wide receivers can't get it done because you have no quarterback. DJ Moore's numbers are way down, and that's not his fault. That's the quarterback play. Robbie Anderson's numbers are down. And now you have a rookie, third round running back coming in that's going to have to try to bolster the running game. It's just the Carolina Panthers, I guess, they're kind of, it's like I keep going back to this contender-pretender kind of thing. They started off, 3-0 or 4-0? And now they're sitting at 5-7. So they're one of those teams where the wheels just kind of fell off, and then they got these new shiny nice wheels when they brought Cam Newton back in, and they were like, dang, now we're back on track. And then those wheels just ended up being crap garbage and fell off again, and now they're in a real bad spot. It would be bad to be a Carolina Panthers fan.
They got those wheels refurbished in Cam Newton. They sent them off, and they got them refurbished. They got them sent back. Turns out the dealer was a little shady. Just put a little spray paint over the rust.
They got a lemon.
Washed off a little bit. Yeah, they got a lemon.
To be fair, though, the Miami Dolphins have sneakily won 4 games in a row, and they've actually been looking really good. And they could actually make a push for the playoffs. If they didn't have such a horrible start to the season, we'd be talking about them almost every week. Jalen Waddle, one of the best rookie wide receivers. Of course, you got to have Jamar Chase as number 1, but the Dolphins are looking really good right now, and they got a really easy rest of schedule. I think they got the Jets maybe once or twice, just once. They got the Giants next week. All I know is their schedule is pretty easy, and I expect them to actually have a pretty decent record at the end of the season. Might slightly miss the playoffs, but I think you could go either way, saying they're the biggest winner. We'll go into this Week 13 preview. Those were our biggest winners and losers. Thursday, this episode will come out the night before. So we got the Cowboys and the Saints. Cowboys are 4.5 points favorites. I think I was shocked that Cameron's biggest loser wasn't the Cowboys losing on Thanksgiving to the Raiders. I mean, you could say the biggest loser was the refs, like the most flags I've ever seen in a game. Mm-hmm. But the Cowboys just have not looked the same in these last few weeks. They didn't have CD, they didn't have Amari. But Dak just has not been looking good at all. Saints, they have Trevor Siemian. 4.5 points. You'd think that would be easy for the Cowboys to cover, right? What do you guys think?
Yeah, I was looking at this game for my lock of the week, and then I thought about what the Cowboys have been doing. I thought, Trevor Siemian. I don't know if you can bet on the Saints, but I was gonna take the spread actually for the Cowboys. But you're right. I mean, coming off a loss to the Raiders. I mean, they put up points. Don't get me wrong, but an overtime loss in prime time, and I know it was 4:30, but it's on Thanksgiving, so that's a prime time game. That's going to set you back a lot. So that's a tough loss. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how many Rocky quotes their coach pulls out this week in practice, because maybe if he says, it's not about how hard you can hit.
Maybe if he.
No, I'm just kidding.
Maybe he brings the watermelons back out.
Oh, maybe. That's right. Well, no, he can't. That's right.
He's got COVID.
He's got COVID now.
Yeah, so he's gone. I think they'll be better without him, honestly.
I don't know who was invited to his Thanksgiving day. Maybe that was it.
Since that's the case, I don't think Mike McCarthy's a good coach. I can't stand looking at him on my TV. I mean, he just looks so dumb, and he just looks like he has no clue what he's doing. So for that reason only, I'm taking the Cowboys -4.5 here. No Mike McCarthy.
Wow.
Camden, any thoughts?
I mean, it's kind of a blah, I mean, the Saints, it's just so hard to watch a team play when, I guess you could say 4 of their best offensive players are not playing. In Jameis Winston, I don't know if Alvin Kamara will be back, but the past 2 weeks he's been gone. Haven't seen Michael Thomas since 2006, and I believe Marquez Callaway is out too. I'm not sure, but it's hard to bet on an offense that a lot of your players aren't 100% healthy. But I'd never ever put money on the Cowboys, so I'd probably take the Saints here. But I don't know. I mean, it'll be. I think that'll be an interesting game. A lot more strategy in that game. You might see this might be a game where we get to see another Trayvon Diggs pick and let his head get a little bigger and let him continue to act like he's doing something. But I don't know. It'll be an interesting game, I think. For a Thursday night, it's better than some of the Thursday night games we've had this year. That's for sure.
I'll say we're getting to that point in the season where the Thursday night football games are just the absolute worst games of the week. And it's kind of tough, but at least it's football on a Thursday. You can't complain about that. But Sunday, 1 o'clock, this is a good one. Chargers versus Bengals. This will be in Cincinnati. Bengals coming off that huge win. They're 3-point favorites here. That one's really tough because the Chargers whooped up on the Steelers. The Bengals whooped up on the Steelers. I don't really know how to feel. That's basically how I judge things. So, Lucas, what do you think?
I mean, yeah, this is another one I was looking at for my lock of the week because I thought, I like the Chargers a lot, but the Bengals are coming off a big win. I think the Chargers lost this week, right? Yeah, they lost to the Broncos.
Yeah.
Which,
that was weird.
The Broncos, to me, are another team that's like, I talk about the Bills every week being so inconsistent. The Broncos remind me the same way.
And the Chargers.
Really, the Chargers too. But the Broncos, like, one week they'll beat the Chargers, and then they put up 10 points against the Browns, and we had a bunch of people out. They beat someone else really big, and then I think they lost like the Eagles, right? And correct me if I'm wrong.
I believe that's
but yeah, I mean, I don't really know how to feel about the Broncos, what was I talking about?
We were talking about the Chargers Bengals.
I don't know how to feel about the Broncos, and because of that, I don't know how to feel about the Chargers either.
Yeah.
I think Justin Herbert's really good. I think Austin Eckler's really good. And I think they have a really good receiver core, but Keenan Allen hasn't had the year he's used to. Things have just gone weird, I feel like, almost, for the Chargers. Even the games where they've looked really good, it's kind of like, yeah, they looked good against the Steelers, but the Steelers were still staying in it. They were in it to the end. Same thing with the Browns. The Browns were in it to the end, and they gave up. The Chargers gave up 42 points to them, or whatever it was. So I don't know how to feel about the Chargers. I think I'd have to take the Bengals in this one personally. Yeah. But I don't know. Them being favored is interesting because I feel like they're also kind of an up and down team.
Yeah.
I'd stay away from this one personally. Camden, how about you?
Yeah, I'd probably avoid it too. I think it's two teams that we've seen. We've seen weeks where they've scored 40, and then we've seen weeks that they've scored 6. So I mean, this game could be in any spot. You never know which Chargers team's going to show up. You're not sure which Bengals team's going to show up. If I had to put money on somebody, I would say how the Bengals played last week, the momentum that's there. I mean, that's big momentum to ride on when you beat the living garbage out of a division rival like that. So I'd probably take the Bengals if I had to put money on it. But again, like I said, we've seen the Bengals come out and completely, score single digits this season. So it's tough. It's one to maybe avoid.
All right. I think the rest of the really good games are in our locks of the week. So, Camden's lock of the week was a Monday Night Football game, so would you mind changing that one for the people?
Is it Monday night?
I believe the Patriots-Bills game will be Monday night. We can talk about it right now while Camden changes it.
I'll go last then.
Patriots are underdogs.
Yeah.
Shocks me.
This game could be the division-winning game, honestly. This one might be the one we look at the end when the playoffs shape up. We'll be like, that's how the AFC East was won. This is a huge game, big primetime game in Buffalo. You know that place is going to be going nuts. Patriots on a 6-game win streak, I think it has to end. I think the Bills come in here hungry, and I think they win. I think they cover, too.
See, the thing about this game is I talk about the inconsistency. The Bills scored 15 points last week. Mm-hmm. This past week, they scored 31 against the Saints.
Yeah.
Saints are beat up, but still, that's a good offensive production good week of offensive production.
The Saints still have a good defense.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. I mean, they're up and down, like I keep saying. So it's a tough one to talk about because they're up last week. They might be down. Patriots are staying hot right now. I almost think they're getting exponentially better. I feel like this defense is gonna have something schemed up for Josh Allen, especially the fact that they don't really have a run game. I think that's gonna hurt them a lot in this game, and I think the Patriots are good enough in that secondary, and they have good enough schemes that's gonna confuse him. And I think that the Patriots are gonna make it 7 in a row, and I think they're gonna win, to be honest. And if they don't, I think they at least cover. So I'd take the Patriots +3.
All right. Camden, you want to give your thoughts on it? I know I saw your previous lock of the week was the over 44 for this game, but do you have a thought on the spread at all?
I mean, yeah, it's definitely interesting seeing a team that's 5-0 on the road and won 6 straight be underdogs against a team that we've seen struggle the past couple weeks. That's just kind of how Vegas goes. So I'd definitely hammer Patriots +3 here. I'd also take the over, which was what my lock was at over 44. I mean, again, the Bills' offense is the Bills' offense. I'm going to say that every week. There's not many secondaries that can hang with the Bills when their passing offense is clicking. But that Patriots offense is right there with them. They're on the same. They got everybody's in sync. Everybody's moving. Everything looks good over there as well. I think this is going to be a great Monday night game. Both teams are, they're right there at the forefront of what the playoffs could look like and a possible playoff matchup in the future. So, I mean, I think this is going to be a good one. But now, Patriots being underdogs, come on, hammer that. That's a lock.
Yeah, this game will be on Monday night, so we record on Monday night, so you're going to have to wait 2 weeks to hear our thoughts on that game. All right, let's get into our locks of the week quick. Camden gets another win here. Last week he had the Bucs-Colts over. Never a doubt in that one. It was a super high-scoring game. They probably put up like 70 points. So he moves to 8-4. I'm at 500. I get the win back there. I took the Bills -6. That one, not much of a doubt with that. Lucas loses another heartbreaker where this one seemed like it was a no-brainer. The Eagles -3.5 versus the Giants. That did not hit. The Giants won that game outright, so he drops to 4-8 on the season. I was looking at the rest of the schedule, though. I laid it all out. There's still a lot of time left. If you go on a streak here, you could pull back. It's not over yet.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but we'll see.
With that being said, what is your lock of the week?
My lock of the week this week, we'll talk about the AFC North, and Dom, I know you're going to give your thoughts on it because it's your team, but I'm betting against them. I'm taking the Ravens -3. I think coming off a sloppy game against the Browns, I think they're gonna bounce back. I still think they're going to win, and I think that their offense is going to look better. I think the Browns defense is better than the Steelers, and the only reason that the Browns hung in this game was because of their defense, and they had 4 interceptions. I think the odds that Lamar Jackson throws 4 interceptions again are pretty low. No matter what defense he's playing against, I think it's pretty low that he throws another 4 interceptions. So I have to take the Ravens -3. I think this offense is too high-powered to get held back by the Steelers' defense unless they have a lot of turnovers. And like I said, just the odds of them having 4+ turnovers again is pretty low. So I'm taking the Ravens -3.
Here's what I think about that. I think it's going to be a very close game. I think this line is almost like spot on of maybe how it could be. I think it could be a chop there, but there's one team that Lamar Jackson hasn't done anything on. He's kind of dominated against every single team in the league. He's never dominated against the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think somehow the Steelers have cracked the code on Lamar Jackson, and so I do think the Steelers will win this game. I do genuinely think that. I will be at this game. I expect it to be very close, even if the Steelers don't win. But my prediction is they do win. So back against the wall, I think the Steelers will play a little better. I think they'll get a little more serious over the week. But it's going to be interesting for sure. Camden, do you have a thought on this Ravens-Steelers game? Who do you think will? I know you're going to say Ravens, but do you think they'll dominate?
No, I don't. I'm just going to go into my lock of the week because I went to that game as well. I'm taking under 44. Basically you kind of took the words out of my mouth there. I think Lamar Jackson, he tends to, I don't know if he tends to struggle, but the Steelers is somebody he hasn't ever really dominated against, exactly like you said. And I mean, both these teams, the morale is down. Anytime your quarterback throws 4 interceptions, whether you win the game or not, morale is down. And then the Steelers, we know why their morale's down. So I feel like this is a game where both teams are going to come in and they're going to take it very slow, and they're going to take it one play at a time. You're not going to see Lamar Jackson bombing it to Marquise Brown. You're not going to see You're obviously not going to see Ben Roethlisberger bombing it to anybody. You're going to see a strategic game of football here that both teams are going to they're going to play to their strengths and not try to get too out of the box. And I think that'll leave for I won't say a lot less, but less than 44 points.
I think that's pretty spot on. I didn't even see your new lock, but after I saw Lucas's, I was like, I think every Steelers game you should just hammer the under. You got to make some money over the course of the season with that. So I'm not opposed to that at all. My lock of the week is I'm stuck between two again here. I like the Dolphins -3 versus the Giants. I like them to continue rolling on. But I also like the Raiders -2.5 versus the Washington football team. And I think I got to go with the Raiders here. I think they have to be the hungriest team possibly in the league. They know how difficult this division is. They know how big of a win every single week is going to be. So I think they're going to come out hot against the Washington football team, especially against Taylor Heineke. I don't think he's going to be able to do much. The Raiders have a pretty good defense along with a pretty they have an okay offense, but it's going to be enough to cover the spread here. They're going to get the 2.5 versus Washington, especially if this beat-up Seahawks, this 3-7 team right now, is convincingly beating this team right now. I don't think the Washington football team has much offense, and for that reason, I'll take the Raiders -2.5 for my lock of the week. Let's go to 7-6. Let's get above 500. Lucas, you win here. You're only 2 games below 500, so...
Yeah. It's not looking great for me. I'm not gonna lie. I think. Do we have a?
Camden said it's a secret.
It's yeah, that's right. It's whoever wins it.
Telling you.
So is it just for the last place person? Is it for the two?
No, it's
losers?
both.
Oh, okay.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
All right. Well, at least I'll be
Yeah.
suffering with someone else.
Yeah. I need to think of something because I'm gonna be storming back. You better believe
No.
that. It ain't over yet. There's a lot of football left. That includes Super Bowl weekend. We're gonna be. I might have to throw a prop bet of like national anthem over under. All right, we will see you guys next weekend. I hope you all enjoyed this episode. I hope you all enjoyed the NFL football. If you're a Steelers fan, it'll be okay soon. We'll get through this together, and Browns fans, of course, too.
Yeah, it's a long road ahead. I think the season might be over, fellas, in the brown and orange.
We're tapping out.
Might be looking to 2022. Yeah.
We'll have our draft preview next week.
Yeah, might have to just throw it right to the 2022 draft right now. But yeah, thanks for tuning in. Make sure you like us and follow us on all platforms. Twitter at North Shore Pod, our Spotify, our YouTube, Apple Podcasts.
TikTok.
Do it all. Yeah, TikTok. Give us some ratings. Might have to. Now that we got the new video editor, once again, just leveling up on this podcast.
Shout out Nick
might have to get Nick on some cut out some TikToks.
Yeah,
that could be part of the.
He's gonna be making some fire thumbnails. He said.
Ooh.
Maybe a graphic right here. Maybe there might be something
there we
right
go.
over my hand right now. There might not be though.
What's over my head? What's over my head, Nick? Huh? You tell me. What's up here?
Put his losing record right above his head.
Yeah, probably. I wouldn't.
Put 4
He
and 8
should.
right there.
Yeah.
All right, we'll see you next week, everybody. Have a great night.